Live from New York, it's a sports show that talks about sports. It's First Things First today.
Eagles since starting 10-1, tied for the second worst record at 1-5. Point differential is -10. They've got they're allowing the most touchdowns, 21, and the turnover differential is -8. That's worse than the league too.
Yeah,
that's a tough one. What would a first round exit mean for Philadelphia?
Well, I think Nick Sirianni took the words out of my mouth, except for the end. He's right. Leading from ahead's easy, and it is his job to pull them out of it. It is where you determine what type of leader a guy is. It is where you determine how good of a coach we actually have, which is why this 6-game stretch is so damning, because it's not only the raw numbers that you put, Wildes, but it's the context of it. Because the first game was against the team you had circled all year, had circled you all year. You could have essentially locked up the 1 seed with 6 weeks to go. It would have been the Niners' 4th loss. You would have had 1, and you'd have had the head-to-head. They trounced you. Then you could have locked up, at the very least, the division with 5 weeks to go by sweeping Dallas, by giving them their 4th loss when you only had 2, and they trounced you. Then you let Drew Lock go 92 yards in the only relevant moment thus far of his NFL career.
Hey, no, he had the Buzz Lightyear thing.
And then the soft part of your schedule started, and you played worse in every single game. First game against the Giants was bad, but you won.
Yeah.
Second game against the Cardinals was a disaster. And the third game, you were down 24-0 at halftime to Tyrod Taylor and the Giants. 24-0. We're the bad thumb with your starters playing. So I say all that to say this. They lose Monday night, he could get fired.
Well, okay.
So
should he, in your view?
Well, can I answer that part in a second? Because there's a reason I would say yes to it. I know people think it's reactionary. Bill Callahan took the Raiders to the Super Bowl. The next year he was fired. John Fox was 46-18 in 4 years with Denver. 4 division titles, a Super Bowl appearance in round 2 every year. Fired. The idea that Jim Caldwell fired 2 years after taking the team to a Super Bowl with the Colts, I think it was a mistake, but still they did it. And the year they fired him for, they were intentionally tanking, and they still fired him. So this idea of, I went to a Super Bowl, my job is safe, not necessarily. And so here's where I would definitively do it. If I got word that Belichick would take the job. That if I got word that if this job came open, Belichick would force his way out of New England, and maybe with Vrabel now being gone, I know we'll get to it, he'll just be forced out, then I would definitively do it. Even because here's the question I would ask you guys, because Wildes, you said something interesting yesterday. You brought up the Callahan tweet. You were like, if Belichick got fired, wouldn't he be the hottest commodity?
Yeah.
If the Eagles didn't have Sirianni as the head coach and needed a head coach, would they even consider him? If Sirianni got fired today, would he be at the top, the middle, or not existent on the next coach hiring cycle?
He's probably not. Look, the Belichick thing is interesting. I mean, if that's a possibility, you have a quarterback who I actually think would work with Belichick.
Yep.
You know, high character, all the skills. I think they work great. And obviously their big problem is defense. Belichick straightens that out.
And Matt Patricia's there already.
Yeah, he's in there kind of
Maybe they'll make him the offensive coordinator.
Love that.
So that's a monkey wrench. You throw that in there, and then it's like, okay, if I can get Belichick. But barring all that, I don't fire him. He's been to the – and I'm not saying he's a phenomenal coach. Every year they've been to the playoffs, 3 straight years, one of them in the Super Bowl. He took them from being a 4-win team to making the playoffs. He oversaw – look, we got to give the head coach some credit no matter who was the hands-on guy. He oversaw the growth of Jalen Hurts from being a guy that we didn't even know would be a long-time starter into an MVP candidate, okay? And the other thing is this. The Super Bowl slump, or what we call it, hangover, it is real sometimes. And I think perhaps this is a delayed version of the Super Bowl slump. They started 10-1. It looked like, wow, it wasn't an issue with them. And then now it's hit them. And look at these names that have fallen victim to a Super Bowl hangover, if you will. Pete Carroll in 2015. They made the playoffs, but they go out early. Peyton Manning in Denver, what you mentioned with John Fox, that when they went to the Super Bowl and then they lost as the number 2 seed, they lost their first playoff game to Indianapolis, his former team. Cam Newton, the year they made the Super Bowl, they didn't even make the playoffs the next year with Ron Rivera. And then Sean McVay and Jared Goff as his quarterback. Get to the Super Bowl, lose to Belichick, don't make the playoffs the next year. These are good coaches and obviously some great players that fell victim to this. So I'm only saying I would give him another chance. He has been successful there. An 11-win season is not horrible. And I get it that, I'd give him next year. He'd pretty much start on the hot seat next year. But I would not fire him this year after that type of success.
Even if and this is, again, but to be clear, if I didn't say it, this is assuming they lose Monday. Obviously, if they win Monday, I don't think there's really any chance he would be fired. But go ahead.
You think you put more of this on Sirianni than sort of the brain drain of losing both coordinators and having Jalen not be 100%?
So I put some of that. I don't put losing the coordinators on Sirianni. I think they got objectively worse at defensive coordinator. That was his choice during the season, going from Desai to Patricia. The idea, and I know Coach Mangini was talking about, they've gotten better against the pass since that's happened.
They just switched it up.
Yeah, but I don't think that's right. I think what happened is they've gotten to play Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor, and the Cardinals, and so and by the way, Kyler then cooked them up. Right. I think that they were playing tough quarterbacks early in the year. They got weaker quarterbacks later. I think I watched the defense had. Shout out to Sheil Kapadia for pointing this out. A 10-drive stretch versus the Cardinals and Tyrod Taylor where they allowed 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so that he's not a defensive coach, but they got worse with that. I also put some of what is happening to, if we're going to give him credit for the growth of Jalen, right, then the flip side of that coin is we have seen the other side of that mountain come down. Now, if that's just injury related, so be it. Then go to your offensive coordinator and say, as the offensive-minded head coach, stop using him as a power back. They haven't. You talking about just the tush push? No, I'm talking about so much of the quarterback-driven runs. That's a huge part of their offense.
Not effective.
I don't think he's running quite as much.
They're not protecting him. They're not treating him like an injured player. My question to the audience would be, to anyone, what does Nick Sirianni currently do well?
I know, but he's a little bit of
what?
It feels like you're treating him like the coaching version of Brock Purdy, where it's like this offense, everything was lined up and given to him on a platter. So now he didn't do anything to get to the Super Bowl. It was kind of just like, all right, roll the ball out and start playing.
And let's face it, it's results. Period. All right, it's results. Sean McVay was being questioned for a minute. Now, all of a sudden, everybody loves him again. Matt LaFleur was being questioned at one point without Aaron Rodgers or with Aaron Rodgers missing the playoffs. Now, all of a sudden, everybody loves him again. So it's just results. Look, the guy's gotten results. This is one bad year. I mean, they're still making the playoffs with 11 wins, and we'll see what happens in the first round. But no, I think we look at the coordinators that left, particularly Steichen, and the success there, and you wonder how much of the success last year from Philly was that rather than the head coach.
Yes, how many wins Steichen had? Cowboys-Packers. Cowboys undefeated at home. Dak fresh off of a 4-touchdown game against the Commanders. Jeffrey Chadilla writing on NFL.com. The Packers better hope they can trust their defense when the postseason begins. The Cowboys might drop 40 on Green Bay. This could be really ugly. Brew, the Cowboys beat up on tomato cans. Packers, not tomato cans. Can Dallas blow out the Cowboys? No. Dallas, actually, that's where the Cowboys are.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Can Dallas blow out Green Bay?
I'm picking Dallas. Not sure if I'm predicting a blowout yet, but it's certainly
that's the question.
Will they blow them out?
Yeah.
They can. I mean, I think it's likely.
Okay.
I agree with what Shadia said. They are awesome at home, right? They 6 of their 8 wins at home have been blowouts by 20 or more points. And 2 of those teams were playoff teams, Philadelphia and the Rams, who transformed from tomato can into a playoff team. Real talk. Yeah. And so Dallas has been obviously great at home. We got some numbers to show. At home, they average 37 points a game and give up 16. So they're winning by 21 points a game. I mean, you see how good they are in Texas. So, yes, it's on the board. And, Nick, the Packers' defense is a question mark. All right, because, look, check this out. They gave up 30 points to Carolina. This is all within the last month. 30 points to Carolina.
Yeah.
Most of the Panthers have scored all year. Gave up 34 points to the Bake Show. That's the second most they've scored all year, Tampa Bay. So their defense, and they're a young team.
We can
Obviously,
show it
Jordan's
to you.
young.
I mean, look, bro, I had this cooked up.
Oh, yeah.
The Packers
So there you go.
defense under Joe Barry has not done a good job all year. Now, maybe they don't have the personnel, but they haven't.
Did a good job against the Chiefs.
Well, Chiefs can't score.
I would also, just point of order, I'd prefer we'd be able to have independent conversations to the point that we're
We
discussing.
said they didn't do a good job all year, and I watched them shut down Patrick Mahomes, the greatest living quarterback.
Okay, so go ahead. You go, Wild.
No, I'm just saying. You said they weren't good all year. I said they were good against
In the
Chiefs.
totality
I'll
of
admit,
the
Nick, it was an odd comment coming from a Chief.
It was also an odd comment because it's not germane to the conversation.
You
as
said
we
they
would
weren't
say.
good all year, and said they've had one-off good games against great quarterbacks.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stand by the statement. We can put those numbers up again if we could, Hubs. That the Packers have had a bad defense all year, much like the Panthers had a terrible offense all year. Yet, despite that, they had an off good or a random good game or two. So I don't think the Packers have a good defense. Now, maybe if the only Packer game you watched all year was them against the Chiefs, you might feel differently, but I don't think they have a good defense. I also think Dallas blows people out more than anybody does.
They do.
And that we can show you as well, which is the Cowboys this season, if we can show that, Hubs, they have more 20-point wins than every other NFC playoff team combined. Yeah, and I understand Bruce's point about tomato cans, but we can also give you some historic context for that as well, which is so this is the most 20-point wins of the Super Bowl era. The Cowboys have the second most, and by the way, what those teams haven't got, you usually only blow teams out if you have a tomato can laden schedule. By the way, those two teams did go to the Super Bowl. The Patriots, obviously, that's the best team I've ever seen. They should have won it, and their 99 Rams did win it. So I say all that to say this. I expect a blowout. I would be disappointed with anything other than a blowout. I don't think it's a playoff game. So any playoff game you win is good. There are definitely no style points in the postseason. But I don't think the Packers have a good defense. I do think the Cowboys have a great offense, particularly on turf in the controlled environment and at home. So I think this is a brutal matchup for Green Bay.
And the youth of Green Bay. I mean, obviously, again, Jordan Love, but their team is the youngest team to make the playoffs since 1974.
So do you think that they are just like, hey, we're the young team, our future is ahead of us, meanwhile Cowboys are SBOB, that if it goes the Green Bay's way, a little pressure can be like, hey, we're playing loose and free, we're happy to be here. Cowboys start to tighten up.
They have absolutely nothing to lose. There's no doubt about that. Now, I did pick Green Bay to make the playoffs. I don't know if you did or not.
As did I, yep.
Yeah, and so we're not surprised, but a lot of people are surprised that they're in the playoffs. I don't know if Green Bay was expecting to make the playoffs. So this is all gravy. So, yeah, sometimes it's like a team in week 18 that has nothing to play for except an upset, and you're going for it on fourth down. You're doing fake punts and things like that.
There's a lot of nerves on McCarthy's side of things. It is a close game. It could spell bad news for Dallas because McCarthy could get tight. This is Green Bay, his former team, the team that got rid of him. And the only way the Packers can be in the position they are, the 6th seed in the playoffs with a defense as bad as they have, is because for the last 2 months, Jordan Love has been exceptional and the offense has been really good. So listen, they have to get in a shootout. I don't think Jordan Love in his first playoff game with that young of a receiving core is going to win a shootout. But I don't think they can win the way they beat the Chiefs, to use your point. I don't think they're going to be able to slow this Cowboys offense from start to finish of the season has been far better than the Chiefs offense has been. I don't think they can win a low scoring game. I think their only hope would be 35-31. And with respect to the Packers, I think that is a bridge too far in Jordan Love's first playoff.
It would have to be a mistake from Dallas. It'd have to be a Dak interception or two. Special
or
teams.
McCarthy. Look, if it's close, clock management.
Finally, news this afternoon that Mike Vrabel fired by the Titans. He was the 2021 Coach of the Year, had a 54-45 career record, also a 3-time Super Bowl champion for the mighty New England Patriots, and was recently inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Well, it seems like a nice coincidence. Nick, what are the chances that Mike Vrabel replaces Bill Belichick, who's currently having conversations with with Robert Kraft?
It seems like the chances are good. I wouldn't do it if I were him. If I were Mike Vrabel, I would not want this job. What's the reason? First of all, everybody says you want to be the guy that follows the guy. You would be the guy that is following the GOAT. That's first of all, right? In Vrabel's case. Sure.
Yep.
Second of all, earmuffs, Wildes, I apologize. The team stinks. That's
putting it kind of.
And I actually, the one thing we look at as is excellent about him is the defense. I don't know how excellent it is without Belichick. Listen, the two players that I know are excellent, Judon and Gonzalez, they didn't really get them most of the year, so they'll be getting them back. If I am Mike Vrabel, man, I am telling my agent, I have a first, second, third place is the Los Angeles Chargers, where I get to go there. There is talent on defense that is underachieved. It's the opposite of the guy that follows the guy. It's the guy that follows Brandon Staley. You get a quarterback, and that's what. Now, I don't know if the Chargers want another defensive-minded head coach. I don't know if that's where they would go. But if I am Mike Vrabel, I don't want this job.
Look, I hear you, and I tend to agree with you. If I'm the Chargers, quickly, I'm looking at Harbaugh. I know that's out there, that quarterback whisperer. He's got his quarterback. But maybe they look at Vrabel because they want to strengthen the defense, and you've got a quarterback already. But Vrabel, I don't know. I don't think he should want the Patriots for the reasons you said, because you got to win Super Bowls there. Like, he was good in Tennessee, there's no doubt. But that wouldn't fly in New England.
No.
Right? So you're following, like you said, the GOAT, not just the guy. But also, if I'm New England, I feel like, and I know Vrabel only played for Belichick. He's not under his coaching tree.
I agree.
But I just feel like it's the same type of thing. It's not really it's a change, but not totally. I want a clean house. And if I get a quarterback, Vrabel's a defensive coach. If I get a young quarterback, I want like an offensive coach to come in there. It's totally new. We're done with the Belichick era. It was great, but now we're moving on.
Okay, so the same reason you don't like it is why I do like it. I think he's an insider-outsider.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the people that are lined up, Josh McDaniels or Mayo, they are pure Bill Belichick, tried and true, up through the system. Vrabel never was a coach under Bill Belichick, so he's over here. So he can come in and you have a little bit of the DNA, but it is a fresh start. The reason I'm not going to the Chargers, Mike Vrabel won those 3 Super Bowls knowing that he had Tom Brady and like, you know what? We're going to win the AFC East every year with this guy. I am not going into anywhere close to a division with Patrick Mahomes sitting there, and I'm constantly looking up at him. I don't care how good Justin Herbert is.
Okay, I think that's a really fair point, but the only division that has like coach openings that doesn't have, nobody has Mahomes, but that doesn't have an alpha clear-cut quarterback in it is the NFC West that has no openings, right? Because Stafford's older, and I'm trying to argue about Purdy. And the NFC South, I guess you could argue there, but none of those are great jobs. You know what I mean? And so every other, in the AFC South, CJ Stroud's there, my guy Trevor's there, set this Trevor stuff aside. West, we know, you have Lamar, you have Josh, you have, and the NFC East, you have Dak and Jalen. In the North, I guess the NFC North, you could argue, doesn't have a clear-cut alpha, but also I don't think any of those jobs are open right now. Caleb might be going there. And by the way, I wasn't trying to imply you only watched one Packer game.
I wasn't crushing Packers.
But they played your Vikings twice a year, so I know there's at least 3. I shouldn't have said that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.